Hi everyone, so we finally have reached the end of the semester. This is our final chapter for our public speaking class, and this is our final topic for the speech. So we are going to be discussing persuasive speaking today, and I'm kind of going to go over as to what persuasion is and quickly cover some of the requirements for your persuasive speech. So let me quickly go over what are the goals and the purposes of persuasive speaking. One of the things that I want to address is the misconception that in order for you to have a really good persuasive speech, you have to be able to convince the entire audience about your topic. Now, let me start by saying that that is a very, very big task that you're trying to accomplish. As you probably have noticed from what we read from the textbook, it is really difficult to change a person's mindset just because they're so ingrained in us as people. So, trying to assume that you are going to only be successful if you change your entire audience's mind is just going to lead to disappointment. So, I'm not going to be grading on how many people you convince about your topic. I'm going to be looking at the different types of methods that you have incorporated into your speech, and that's what will make me see whether you are successfully understanding the topic or not. So let's quickly go over what are the goals and the purposes of persuasive speaking. So the first thing that I wanted to cover is the idea of what are some of the goals that you're trying to achieve while delivering a persuasive speech. So, persuasive speakers seek one of these few goals. The first one is the reinforcement of a position. One of the things that a lot of people don't think about is that sometimes you are basically preaching to the choir. There are people in the audience that already agree with you when it comes to that topic. So, you're just trying to say, hey, keep on believing what you're believing. That's reinforcing a position. The next thing that you look at is a shift in position. So if you're trying to get somebody to completely change their mind on a topic, that would be a shift in position. The next thing is you're trying to convince the audience to adopt a behavior. This is one of the most commonly done speeches that I have seen in my 6 years of teaching. Usually it's let's go to the gym, eat a little bit healthier, all of that good stuff. Another thing that we see often in persuasive speeches are the elimination of a behavior, trying to tell us to stop doing something, like stop drinking cow's milk, make sure that you stop littering, stop using the internet, things like that, right? One of the things that you want to achieve in your persuasive speech is that you're not trying to achieve one of the four things that I mentioned above. You are attempting to do so. But what you want at the end of the speech is you want the audience to have a different perspective from the topic than what they started with. So even though they might not adopt the behavior that you want or eliminate the behavior that you suggested to eliminate, they are going to think differently about the topic. And that means that you have achieved the goal in your speech. Does that make sense? The next thing that we're going to be talking about are the different categories of persuasive speaking. So, as many of you probably have guessed by now, or if you don't know, my specialty is argumentation. So, I do teach a lot about debates, and that kind of overlaps with persuasive speaking. So, there are three categories for persuasive speaking, and each one of these categories is basically based on a way of phrasing an argument. So there are three different ways that you can phrase an argument or a claim or your stance on a topic. You can address a stance that it is a proposition of fact. Usually it is best organized in a topical organization. If you go back to our lecture or section on outlining, you will understand what the topical pattern is. So a proposition of fact is a type of persuasive speech, and this basically kind of challenges whether something did happen or did not happen, or whether something exists or doesn't exist. So usually these are used in everyday lives when we're trying to solve a court case or we're trying to decide whether somebody committed a crime or not. So my example for this is, criminal cases are definitely a good example of a proposition of fact. So one of the examples that you can think about is, do you think Ted Bundy, the infamous killer, many of you have probably seen the Netflix films and documentaries on Ted Bundy. Do you think he was guilty? That would be a proposition of fact. Something that a lot of people have done in their speeches in the past are like, is the earth flat? Does Santa Claus exist? Those are types of propositions of fact that can be turned into persuasive speeches. So that's one of the speeches that can be a type of persuasive speech. The next one that I'm going to be talking about are propositions of value. Propositions of value are the ones that we usually see in persuasive speaking when you are trying to look and assess the worth of our statement. So, for example, is it immoral to have the death penalty? Is online dating a real thing? Do you find true love in online dating? Those are propositions of value because they're looking at the worth of a statement. The problem with propositions of value is that they're very difficult to prove because there are different definitions for words. So online dating can have a different definition from one person to another. So it's really difficult because you have to define the term, you have to set the criteria that you're going to be measuring that term to. So it's very complicated. And another thing is that values are really difficult to change. People have their values from the moment that they were born. So it's really hard to tell somebody, hey, change your mind about what you think and think the way that I do. So these are really difficult to achieve. And one of the way that people kind of like organize the speeches are the refutation format or the reasons approach, like providing reasons as to why they believe in the worth of the statement that they're arguing for, or just kind of like mentioning why people disagree with them, and then they kind of like coming up with a rebuttal for it. And an example for this is like, do you think people have the right to use assisted suicide if they feel like they are too ill to continue to live? So that one of the topics that we often see is like, can people have assisted suicide? It's something that has been going on, being debated on in the country and in Oregon and different places around the US. And a lot of people have different ideas because some people think that assisted suicide is a way of like killing someone or murdering, all of that good stuff. So not good stuff, I mean all of that stuff that's being discussed. So that would be an example of a proposition of value. Another proposition of value could be a persuasive speech as to who is the most successful basketball or baseball player. That is something that is very subjective, and you're assessing the worth of a statement. Finally, the category that we're going to be focusing on in this class and the speech that we're going to be doing in this class is a proposition of policy. So a proposition of policy looks at a problem and is suggesting a way to solve a perceived problem. So you have to show that, one, the problem exists and why your solution or your stance on the problem is the best one, and why we must dismiss the other ones that have been suggested before. One of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is, should we completely eliminate straws from restaurants? So what is the problem? Why are straws such a big deal? And a lot of people are saying that it's because, you know, the plastic that they're made of, plastic is not biodegradable. It's causing a lot of pollution, both in the oceans and on Earth and different parts of the world. So a lot of people are saying that this is an issue, and people are suggesting different ways of solving it, like bring your own straw. Make sure that you don't request a straw if you have the choice. Metal straws, bamboo straws. There's different ways of looking at it. So it just depends on your stance on the issue. Now, again, kind of like going back to the previous slide, this is the speech that we're going to be doing for this class. So you're going to be looking at a problem that is happening within society, the country, the world, globally, etc. You're going to be looking at that, and you're going to be offering a solution to that problem. So this is the type of speech that our persuasive speech is going to be off. It's going to be a propositional policy speech. And with a propositional policy, there is a specific pattern to follow. If we go back to when we covered outlining, we talked about the different patterns of organization for speeches. And one of them, I clearly stated that it was a pattern that was specifically for persuasive speeches. And that's the pattern that is called problem, cause, solution. Problem, cause, solution is the best way to organize our persuasive speech of policy, because it literally outlines everything for you. It tells you, you know, describe the problem, describe what caused the problem, and then give us your solution. I will be providing a outline template, a different outline template for this particular pattern of organization. So you'll just take it and plug in the information for your speech. So the first part of the outline, or the first main point that you're going to be looking at, is the problem. You're going to tell us what's the problem, why is it a crisis, why should we address it? One of the things that students fail to do when it comes to their persuasive speeches is explain the urgency as to why we have to address the problem. Yes, straws are a big deal, but shouldn't we be addressing something else right now? So you have to make sure that you have the urgency and explain why it's really important for us to address that particular problem. The next thing that your second main point for the speech is going to be the causes. You're going to be explaining to us, why is the problem, why does it exist? How did it come about? So in the case of the straw, it's, you know, one of the reasons why they became a problem is because of the convenience of it. You are handed a straw. You can easily access straws, and that's how it became a problem. You can also talk about how straws are made of like a material that it's not biodegradable. That's another cause of the problem. And you can talk about how straws are cheap and convenient, and that will be another cause to that problem. Finally, you will be offering us a solution. So, what is your solution? Do you want us to get rid of straws completely? Do you want restaurants not to have straws? Do you want it to make it a law for people to bring their own metal or bamboo or wood or recyclable straws? Like, what is it that you want us to do? For this particular part of the outline, you're going to kind of explain to us the solution, how the solution would take place. Why is the solution better than what we already have or the other solutions that have been suggested? In this section, you are definitely going to be telling us why your solution is superior to other counter arguments. So one of the things that you're going to be doing specifically for this part of the outline is you're going to be offering a solution, detailing your solution for us, and then suggesting why the solution is better than other ones. So you're going to be saying, my solution is A, B, and C, and this solution does not work because dot, 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 and my solution is better because dot, dot, dot. So you're going to be saying, yes, I hear the opposing side. I can see where you're coming from, but my solution is still much better. So that's basically what you're going to be doing for your persuasive speeches. I know that it is definitely a new concept and it seems like it might be more complicated than your other speeches, but I promise you all that it's actually going to be quite an interesting project because you're going to be talking about something that you feel very passionate about. So don't forget to read the chapters to really get a good understanding of your speech. Make sure that you read the guidelines of the speech and that you get your topic approved by me. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I'm always here for you. I hope you're all having an excellent week and I will talk to you soon.